Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. I hope you're doing well today. I hope you're enjoying the sun finally in April. I am so excited that it's finally like spring, summer. It's just elevating my mental health, just making me feel so much better about things. Spring is all about rebirth. I think one thing that I'm really just like keen to get out of the habit of is this obligatory feeling of feeling like I need to be like nice all the time and fall into those people pleaser tendencies in order to be accepted and in order to feel loved. And that's something that I really want to talk about because, as you can probably see with the title of the video, it sounds kind of harsh. It sounds kind of like, ooh, why does Hattie not want to be nice? Why is Hattie not interested in being nice? And I want to go into what this idea of nice actually is and how actually it's to most people's detriment, how it's like a negative thing, if anything, and how we can reframe what we mean when we say nice, and how it's not something really to strive for, although actually, if I'm being honest, it's something that I have been obsessed with and been obsessed with being for 4/5 of my life, and it has literally never served me. And that's what I'm going to talk about in this video, how we can kind of like overcome it, how we can realize that actually it's not a compliment, it's not something that we should aspire to be, and really delve into where it comes from and how like sinister the idea of like being nice, especially for women, is. If you're interested in becoming less of a people pleaser, if you're interested in just learning to live your life authentically and really understanding that being nice isn't something to aspire to be, understanding that you can just chill out, live your authentic self, and start living your life for you rather than other people. This idea of like being nice and wanting to be nice comes from a fear of rejection. I thought that if I was nice and if I was, you know, amenable and molded to everybody else, people would like me, people would want to be around me. And married with this idea that I thought everybody would treat me or behave towards me like I would behave towards them, brought me a lot of disillusion. It brought me a lot of bewilderment because I realised that I was like chasing a sort of forever moving goalpost, looking to please others before pleasing myself. I did it for years and years and years, and it never served me. It never brought me peace. You know, not everybody would like me, no matter how nice I was, no matter how kind, compassionate or whatever I was. There were some people who didn't like me. I was thinking, you know, what I've been told with the messaging that I've been told throughout my life, as long as I'm nice, people are gonna like me. It's just like that, black and white, you know, cause and effect, and it doesn't work like that. It was before I realised that like everybody's actions and everybody's behaviour is a reflection of them. I used to literally convince myself that people treated me in the way that they did because I deserved it. It just wasn't serving me. It was like a never-ending like battle essentially with myself, striving to remove this obsession with being nice and striving to kind of like not focus on being nice doesn't mean that you can't be other great things. Yes, I'm no longer interested in being nice, but I am interested and will always be interested in being kind, in being compassionate, in being loving, and wanting to give of myself in a positive way and treat people with respect. And that's still a massive priority to me. And that is part of, I suppose, being nice. But I'm talking about, I suppose, I'm focusing on the detrimental effects of what it means to strive for being nice. I'm really interested in being a positive brightness in people's life, and that's never going to go away. That's always going to stay a constant in my life, but I'm not going to do that at the expense of my own feelings. I'm not going to do that at the expense of my mental health, my authenticity. Just because you might be fiery, just because you might be opinionated, just because you might experience negative emotions sometimes does not make you a bad person. I think you know, back in the day, I would often sort of associate experiencing negative emotions as me letting myself slip into being a bad person, and it's just not the case. You can experience negative emotions, you can express those negative emotions sometimes, and that does not make you a bad person. It just means that you're a human. As I've kind of touched on quite a lot already, is this idea of being nice really comes from a people pleaser place. When you're taught these messages of, you know, you need to put other people's feelings first, you need to, oh, you don't want to do that because someone might not like you, or you don't want to do that because people might reject you. It is so exhausting to have to police your own brain and not let your brain go to certain places or, well, negative emotions, or let yourself experience or even express those negative emotions just because you're worried about how people will react, just because you're worried about how people will perceive you. It is just not that important. And honestly, the right people and the people that are immature enough to be honest in themselves will not take that / hold that against you. It's just an exhausting existence to have to police your own thoughts and police your own actions, when obviously within reason you should just be able to be authentic and express yourself really truly how you feel in that moment. I think some members of the older generation, especially middle class or aspiring middle class people, are absolutely obsessed with impressions and how we come across to other people. I think worrying about how you come across to other people and how your life looks like on the outside to other people to give a certain impression, to give a certain look of what your life looks like is fucking exhausting, because you're living for everybody else. You're not living authentically, you're not living for yourself. You're living to impress other people. You're living to show other people that you have a good life. Like, it's just such a waste of time. And the sad thing about it is really the root of this idea of like people pleasing in general. People just want to be accepted. They don't want to be rejected. And people, people please, care about being nice because they don't want to be rejected. It comes from a fear of being rejected by their peers. In all fairness, it's actually a very primal desire. It's a very primal thing to want to be accepted by our peers. We're social animals. It comes from a place of like wanting to protect ourselves. It comes from a place of wanting to preserve ourselves in order to like survive in society. It takes a great deal of strength to reject that. I think all of us to some extent will always want to be accepted by people that we care about, people that we want to keep in our lives. But I am absolutely not going to be doing that at the expense of my own mentality and mental health and mental stability and emotional hygiene. It's so soul destroying, and it comes to no avail to focus on being nice and to be a people pleaser. I would actually go as far as to say it's dangerous to your mental health, and it doesn't lead to a fulfilling life. You're just constantly going to be on edge. You're constantly going to be worried about whether or not someone likes you. Fuck that, it is exhausting. I'm talking extreme where people are living their life basically for other people and for this idea of wanting to give off the impression that they're nice. Anybody that's able to recover from that and start to change the way that they perceive themselves is incredible, because when you've been taught that messaging, especially from a child, it's so hard to know any different. And it's only really when you get into the world when you realise that, a lot of people don't really people please. And when you kind of start to realise that you can live yourself and take up space and be your authentic self by, pushing boundaries a little bit and realising that there are very few consequences for that, you think to yourself, wow, I could have just been like this the entire time, and there were, people still accepted me, people still liked me, people still were drawn to me, and I was more fulfilled at the same time. There is duality. You can be authentic, you can be fiery, passionate, experience negative emotions and express those negative emotions, and people will still like you because they see that that's just 10% of you. The 90% is glorious and authentic and deserves respect. There is duality. You can be fulfilled and still be yourself and not have that anxiety of feeling as though you need to be somebody else and need to squash those emotions. It was a really weird feeling when, the past 4 years, I could be myself and let myself just express who I was, which is this, someone that is opinionated and somebody that does have passion for things for inequality, for example, or, somebody that does say what they think sometimes, and somebody that does challenge people. When I started to realise that I actually gleaned more respect and people were more drawn to me when I was more my authentic self, it was hard, because I realised all this time I've been obsessed with diluting myself and not expressing myself to the full. And I thought that's where I would find acceptance. And actually I found acceptance and actually a greater amount of love and respect when I was my authentic self. It was a hard pill to swallow, because I'd been living my life, for the past probably at that point, 11, so 10 years. But those 10 years that I had been obsessed with being nice and been sort of swallowing my authentic self was such a waste. And I can see why people get to an older age and they're too scared to even let themselves come to that realization, because it would mean that decades of their life they've spent, being somebody that they didn't need to be. It was unnecessary. They could have just been their authentic self this entire time. It's a hard pill to swallow, and I only did it for 10 years. And I'm lucky to have kind of come to that realization at this early age. But, being a people pleaser, it doesn't serve you. And I'm going to come on to my next point now, which is that people can tell when you're not being authentic. And this is why, I feel like I kind of wasted those 10 years worrying about being nice, because people respected me more and rated me more, I suppose, when I was more authentic, and I attracted people that I actually wanted to attract into my life. I realized when I was a people pleaser that I kept people in my life that didn't serve me, that weren't aligned with me. And it's because I was worried about hurting their feelings, or I was from this sort of desperate mindset of I can't afford to lose friends or whatever. So dumb. People can tell when you're being inauthentic, and unfortunately, you're gonna get taken advantage of. People know that you will stop at nothing to appease them and to be accepted. I've had this happen so many times during my sort of predominant people pleaser phase, where people would clock that I was wanting to be accepted by them and wanting to be validated by them. So they deliberately didn't validate me, and they deliberately made me feel low because they knew that my self-worth depended on how they treated me. You are literally controlled by other people when you are interested in being nice, when you are a people pleaser or extreme people pleaser, which what I formerly was. You put your self-worth and your self-esteem into somebody else's hand. You base your self-worth and yourself and the value that you put on yourself on other people's treatment of you. There is such a lack of control with that. You don't have control over your self-esteem, which is something that nobody else should have control over. It only leads to an unfulfilling life. It's scary to think that for 10 years of my life, I put my value into people's hands that didn't deserve it, or into shitty people's hands, because if you think about it, kind, compassionate, loving, wonderful people would not take advantage of somebody who is a people pleaser. I certainly don't. I can tell when someone's a people pleaser. I can tell when somebody is interested in being nice because I was there. But I would then obviously not then take advantage of that. When you are a people pleaser, you unfortunately put your self-worth into the hands of those people that are shit, because the only people that would take advantage of you are people that suck. You're continuing to attract negative people or people who don't have good intentions into your life. When you start to unravel the people pleaser tendencies, because you're becoming your more authentic self, you're pushing away those people that would want to take advantage of you anyway. So being a people pleaser is counterproductive, because not only are you becoming unfulfilled yourself, you're basing your self-worth on other people, you're also continuing to keep people in your life that are unhealthy for you, that are bad for you. Being authentic and being your true self, it leads to good people coming to your life or staying in your life, because the people that wanted to take advantage of you won't stick around, won't want to stay, because they can't manipulate you, they can't take advantage of you. It's only productive being authentic, because you're only going to keep around those people that are truly for you, that are truly there for you, and that truly rate you. Overall, the aim should be to be authentic, not nice. And being authentic for happy, confident, peaceful people is kindness, compassion, love, wanting other people to succeed, wanting other people to do well, wanting goodness for other people. So you don't need to worry about being nice. When you're authentic, you have nothing to hide. When you're authentic, you're not wasting so much of your emotional energy on swallowing those parts of yourself that you've been told are bad. And when you start to embrace those parts of yourself that other people have told you are bad, it leaves room for you to love other people more. You feel like you can express yourself fully and take up space. You're a kinder, brighter, more wonderful person because you feel at liberty and at peace to express yourself fully and show up fully as your entire complete self. And there's something that comes with that, and there's this light that comes with that, and there's this warmth and love for yourself but also for others that comes with that authenticity, and it is only a positive cycle. And I can tell you, as somebody who has swallowed it for a really long time, that if you continue to not work on unraveling that people pleaserness, it will come out somewhere. I express my negative emotions a lot more freely than I once did, and there are times when I'm like, okay Hattie, come on. It's like you come out of this people pleaserness and you're kind of like suddenly like diverging, you're like experiencing all these emotions, letting everything out. And then I'm hoping eventually for me, it will kind of like start to converge back into being a more sort of like level-headed Hattie, a bit more sort of like leveled out, plateaued sort of version of me, where I've found out what like boundaries I can and can't push, and within myself and just with like in life general, what kind of space I can or cannot take up. But right now I'm in this sort of like diverging phase where I'm seeing, I guess, what I can get away with, as in like how much I can express my like negative emotions. Obviously not taking the piss with other people, obviously, but like self-aware enough to know that like I'm not interested in taking out my anger or like negative emotion on people, but just sort of like pushing boundaries. Like for example, like posting maybe a controversial opinion on like my Instagram about like a topic that I care a lot about. Any example that you can think of where you're not taking liberties with people, but you're also like expressing yourself more fully, maybe to a greater extent that you would ordinarily, is where I'm at. That's just one thing that comes with like unraveling that people pleasingness, because you've suppressed so much for so long that it does come up a little bit more sort of like extreme than you would hope. Authenticity leads to greater respect from other people. It leads to only keeping around those people in your life that are worthwhile and are going to encourage you to thrive, not drain you. And it's going to remove that horrible gut feeling, and it just brings a lot of peace. It brings a lot of like peace for your nervous system, because when you're constantly relying on other people's validation for your nervous system and your like inner peace, you're placing that power of your inner peace with other people. You're giving power to other people to dictate your personal peace and your inner world. Your inner world should be dictated by you, and nobody else should have that power. The peace and like sort of tranquility that comes with being authentic encourages you to take back your power, reclaim your power from other people, and give that validation, give that sort of self-esteem back to yourself. And that is such a fucking powerful thing. It's such a powerful thing, and it's the best decision I ever made to unravel that people pleaserness. So if you enjoyed this video, took value from this video, please comment down below your experiences with people pleasing, your experiences with this idea of being nice. I really want to know what other people's experiences with this is, because I only know a few recovering people pleasers. I just want to know what other people's experiences are. So please comment down below your experiences. I really want to know and have a discussion about this, because it's such an important topic for living a fulfilling life. So with that, I hope you have a lovely day, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.